Something changed inside of me after I became a father. I think I took all the stories, all the hunches that I had in the back of my mind, the things that were really gnawing at me, and I started taking them all a little bit more seriously. So, what do I mean by that? I think stories have a really powerful effect on us. There are so many unconscious stories that I'm carrying, and there are so many unconscious stories that we hear about in this world about this is just how the way things are. And we're meant to just follow them, we're just meant to live up to them. There are so many stories that I've carried in my life, and there's been a voice in my head for a long time that's been saying, you know what, there's something not right about this, there's something kind of broken about this way of thinking. But until I became a father, I would just sort of let it slide. I would kind of go along with the story. But I think something happened after I had my daughter where I started to tell myself, no, 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 no. Let's pause. Let's actually think carefully about what these stories are. Because if I'm going to be raising my daughter, I want to raise her with the best stories, with a better story. Because the really interesting thing is that stories are made up. Stories are something that you and I tell each other. That's how stories are built. But we take sometimes a lot of them for fact that it ends up ruling our lives. It ends up controlling every aspect of our life. And if I want my daughter to grow up in a great world, I need to hold a mirror to myself and ask myself, are these stories real? What kind of person am I being? How do I change myself? And then it's a chance for me to hold a mirror up to the world, to society, and ask society, hey, here are the stories that we've been telling ourselves. Are they serving us? And what does the sequel look like? Can we write a better story together? And that's what this channel is all about. It's a chance for us to explore it together. I am not an expert. I'm not going to be a coach. I'm not going to be someone who's here to educate you. I think I'm just here, an imperfect person, a person who became a father, who wants to go down this path of exploration and try and understand what are the stories that we tell each other? What are the stories we tell ourselves? And is it good? Are they good stories? And can we tell something a lot better? I don't think we have that stuff figured out yet. And I'd like, if you would like someone, if you have felt similarly, that there's something just not quite right with the world, and you have wanted to find a community, a tribe of people who've been wanting to explore that, I hope you'll join me on this journey. So what are these stories? What are these stories that I care deeply about? Well, I think, so what are these stories that I actually care about? Well, I think one of the biggest stories that we tell ourselves is a story of money. Now, money was meant to be just a means of exchange. It's a way for you and I to trade things back and forth. But money has since morphed into something a lot different. It's become this identifier of significance, of power, of success. Like we give ourselves self-worth and self-esteem based on how much money that we're making. Our entire education system, and I shouldn't call it education system, I should call it the schooling system, has been built around the idea of how do you get people and extract the most amount of money out of them. And at the end of it, how do you set them so that they are trained to be quote unquote successful? And by successful, it means how many of them are trained to make as much money as possible. I think these are false ends. These are not the right ends to which we should be building our society towards. That's just education. We're talking about money's impact on schooling. But what about money's impact on something like where we live, the relationships we have, the kind of people we spend our times with, the kinds of things we believe, the kinds of things that government does for us and we do for it, the way we conduct ourselves in our society. I think all of these are stories that we're telling, and they're all interconnected. All of these ideas are one and the same, and there's this underlying current of beliefs, of ideas, of stories that rule all of it. And all of us are we just decided to get on this boat and we decided to go down this tide, not realizing that we can actually take the boat in another direction. We can go somewhere else entirely and feel much better and make ourselves better, be happier in the process, make the world a better place. For me, this feeling that there's something not right started back in college. I studied economics, I studied political science, I went off to business school, and I had the privilege or the misfortune, however you want to look at it, of being surrounded by people who were from the most elite class of society. I was definitely not part of that. I was, and I am an immigrant. I worked really hard to make my way there, and I remember sitting and rubbing shoulders with people who were some of the richest, and the sons and daughters of some of the richest and successful people in the country. And I saw a feeling of not really caring about the world. They would care mostly about maximizing profit. And I'm seeing what that's doing to the culture of work, the culture of leadership, the culture of how we see one another, the culture of how business operates right now in North America, at least, which is sort of where I'm based out of. And we no longer see people as people. We see people as resources. We see them as assets, disposable things, people to just sort of throw away when it's no longer expedient to keep them around. I see the decisions that we're making in the corporate world that are destroying society, that are destroying the environment, that are destroying one another, building products, building services that are actually fractionalizing all of us, that's breaking us apart. And I think about all of these different ideas, the story of money, the story of business, the story of schooling and relationships, and all of these things put together. And I'm realizing they're all just one and the same, because what's the response we give to these two different stories? Well, on one hand, you've got the world of the hard money people, or the people of, very facts and figures like, right? So if you're talking about money, you're going to have a lot of people telling you, here are the best investment strategies. Here are the kinds of careers to go into to make a lot of money very, very quickly. Go into investment banking, go into certain types of finance, or go into this type of, surveillance techno capitalistic type of society. Go to Silicon Valley, raise a crap ton of money, and build a startup, mine people's data, and then sell it back to other people. That's one story that's out there. And on the other hand, you've got this world of like much more metaphysical, woo-woo type of way of looking at things. And I would listen to both of these stories because I wanted to make sense of it. I wanted to feel like I had some grounding somewhere, and I felt myself not connecting with either side, because at the end of it, both sides are ultimately stressing that money is the most important thing, right? Like, you want to manifest money because money is the most important thing. You want to manifest money in the hard world of society, and they too care and make money the most important thing out there. And I was just very kind of disillusioned by both sides. I look at schooling, where people think that, well, the more famous of a school you go to, the better you are as a human being. But I have met people from Ivy League schools who have had their MBAs who are terrible at what they do. They can't manage anyone, let alone manage themselves. Over the last 10 plus years, I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of investment bankers, accountants, corporate attorneys, and I think what I see quite often, not all of them, but I see quite often people who are drowning in their own neurosis. They are feeling constantly inadequate, and they're on this endless chase for more, and it shows in the kinds of cultures that they're building. And unfortunately, we have made these people the people who control everything. They have so much power, but I think we need a better story, and that's what this channel is all about. Like, what is that better story going to be? And I guess what I'm trying to also find is a better story that, and guess what I'm also trying to find is a better story not just for society, because I think there's a lot of people out there who have very idealistic opinions on how the world should be, and they are expecting society as a whole to change. But I think if we're going to create a better future for you, for me, for our kids, we're going to need stories that you and I can practice with right now, that we can live out right now. Individuals, you and me. And if we find a tribe to live them out with, then we're going to be even happier. A new story about how we build businesses, a new story of entrepreneurship, a new story of money, a new story of school, a new story of how we raise our kids, a new story of our homes, a new story of family, a new story of all of these different things is exciting, especially when we do it together, when we come together and actually build this new story out. That's what makes it exciting, and that's what this channel is all about. I hope this is sort of connecting and resonating with you. This is a wild experiment for me, because in all of these years I've felt that something is wrong, and people kept telling me that this is just the way the world actually works, so you have to go along with it. And it isn't until now that I'm looking at my daughter and I'm pausing and I'm asking myself and giving myself the courage to say, no, I really want to find a better story. So if this connects with you, I hope you will maybe share how have you felt out of place in this world. I'd love to know maybe the disillusionment phase that you've had yourself. And in the very next video, I'm going to be talking about maybe some of the lies and myths that I've learned about money that makes us feel that there's not enough, that we're never going to have enough. And I'd like to sort of confront that in the next video. So you can watch that, somewhere up here. But until then, leave a comment. I'd love to know maybe how have you felt during this phase of transition? Because I really think we're living through this phase of transition right now, where the old order, the old stories, we know for a fact are no longer serving us. We have come to the realization that they're not going to serve us anymore. We're going to need something better. We're seeing our society break apart. And what's that next story supposed to be? But please tell me, what's been your journey like? What's it been like for you to find a tribe, to get unplugged from the existing kind of malaise of society, the existing malaise of our own selves, because we hold these stories in our own heads. So I'd love to know. And in the next video, we're going to be talking about maybe my exploration and some of the ideas that I've uncovered about scarcity and how do we get past it. So thank you so much for being part of this journey with me. I'm doing this to build a tribe where we can come together, share stories, and more than anything, find the courage to live more consciously. Thanks.